Hello and welcome to Andy's FPL Apprentice. Ahead of our team selection for Gameweek 15, I've got an important announcement to make. I'm rubbish at FPL again. Joining me as usual is Will. How you doing, bud?
Hello, very good, sir. You all right?
Yeah, I am not too bad. You know, fantasy football aside, anyway.
Real life, not too bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Terrible week for me this week, really. My game week rank was an impressive 8 million out of the 10.5 million people who play. Lost me, I don't know, 450k in rank. I scored 50 points. I have a bit of a thing because I obviously I love fantasy football. I wouldn't be doing this channel if I didn't. And but it's a game and it's supposed to be fun, and it can genuinely you can
break
feel
your heart.
Yeah, you can feel a bit miserable when you have a real duffer. So I checked my points on Sunday night, and I've not looked at my team until about 10 minutes ago. I've done absolutely no research for this video at all. I think sometimes you just need that. It's just well, this is a depressing week. I'm just gonna pay no attention to it at all.
Absolutely.
Makes you feel better. But my defense was great. Double Newcastle, clean sheet. Trippier with 11 points, superb. Clean sheet for White and Cancelo. But some of the last couple of weeks' decisions have just been really terrible for me. Foden not starting again, so coming on for a 1-pointer. I brought in Saka this week, and he went off after half an hour.
Yeah.
I remember saying on the last video that I thought getting rid of Zaha was the wrong call. He was poor again. I wasn't worried about Haaland being out because Andreas Pereira come off the bench. He's been really good recently. Nothing from him. Kane's been so consistent, but you could argue hasn't been worth the money for me because I never captain him. And the one time I actually need to rely on him as my captain choice, he does nothing. So yeah, 50 points, all out, really poor. But I think sometimes you've just got to separate it, haven't you? The results didn't go the right way, but I don't think all the decisions have been wrong. Sometimes you look at a decision, you think I regret that. I wish I hadn't done it. I don't regret bringing in Foden. I said it before, Andy, he'd started every single game this season. He was I think he was the highest scoring midfielder when I brought him in. City's fixtures were great. Now,
just these last 2 weeks, he's come off the bench and done nothing.
Yeah, he's dropped him for the last two.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it goes sometimes. So I'm not gonna. I've got an idea of transfers for next week, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to panic overreact. It's easy to look at the result and go I could consider taking a hit this week. I need to make changes to my team. I thought my team looked good for this week, and I think it looks good for next week. So yeah, disappointing, but we carry on.
We march ever forward. Well, I had a much better week. Our shared players, Cancelo, Trippier, and White, big points getters for me this week. I once again made the right choice, just marginally, for Sanchez, who got 5 over Ward's 3. I captained Haaland, who obviously didn't play, so the vice captaincy fell to Salah, who got 7 points, so double to 14. Almiron again with 12 points was a big points getter. Martinelli, I'm glad I stuck with him instead of swapping for Saka when I had a little set of doubts when Saka seemed to be coming into form, but 8 points from him. Foden again, I share that his 1 point. Eze came off the bench in place of Haaland, which is a bit of a shame because I got 6 for Anderson and 11 for Ben Mee, who was he's really very much my backup player, but big points getter. 1 for Toney and a suspension, and 9 for Jesus. So good recovery from my Arsenal players and Newcastle players.
Yeah,
76 points.
Yeah, Martinelli was taken off as well. Like I was disappointed in that because it sounded like he played really well. I get it. Like the game's sewn up and
Game was
so
done. Yeah.
they rested him, but yeah, you feel like he could have been on for a real haul in that.
But hopefully that means he's straight on next game.
Yeah,
No doubt I'll play him.
we're recording this on Thursday night, so the Arsenal Europa League match hasn't happened yet. I understand that it sounds like Saka's injury isn't that bad. I imagine he won't play tonight, and he'll probably be fit for the league game at the weekend. But I'll definitely keep an eye on that. But yeah, it'd be nice to see Martinelli get a rest in that. But I think he's just in such good form. He's not a huge rotation risk anyway. Yeah, I never beat myself up for the sub choices. I had like Gay sitting on the bench as well. Like Crystal Palace obviously got a clean sheet, so we both suffered with that. And obviously, you really doubled down with Ben Mee on it. But they're tough ones when you're like weighing up which one to play. When there's no doubt in your head at the start of it, and you're like, they were never in consideration to start anyway. It's like, well, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, decent week for you. It pulls the gap between us quite large again. I think it's a good. I've got it in front of me, but
yeah, my overall is now 290,582. That's quite a big step up from I think I was in the 400s last week.
Yeah. 27 points between us, but it's still obviously. Well, it's still quite early days. It's weird because it feels like it's the halfway point in the season, but it's not.
No, it's all wrong. And the World Cup could change so much in terms of injuries, performance, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what I'm going to do next week, it does kind of depend on Saka, because if Saka's out, I probably will just take him back out again. It's the same options as last week. That's the problem. When obviously I brought Saka in, and I said like Almiron was the only other person I was considering. I also had a little look at Rashford, who also scored and would have been a decent pick. But I went with Saka. So it's kind of between those two again. I think if I was if Saka's out and I'm going to make a midfield change, I think some players I'm just going to stick with. Zaha's frustrating. Like he seems to put in man of the match performance one week, and then it's not just the lack of FPL output. It's that it often sounds like he offers zero threat at all.
Yeah, sometimes completely disappears.
But I think there's other things that you can target. Though my midfield did nothing this week apart from Martinelli, really. I still like my midfield. I was disappointed Foden played 90 minutes last night and he took Grealish off at half time. I'd really like it if Foden started.
Yeah, it suggests perhaps a non-starter.
But again, Foden's such a good option if he plays that I don't know. If there was somebody I was absolutely desperate to bring in, you could say swap him out, but there isn't. So I do think the Almiron shout I said last week is actually a bit of a trap that I've fallen into this season, which is like looking at like both data and kind of fixtures over form.
Sure.
So I think if I was to get rid of Saka because he's injured, I'd probably just bring Almiron in. And I probably should have done last week as well. Like, he's in the form of his life, and I'm kind of looking at it saying, like, yeah, but he keeps scoring wonder goals. Like, he's not getting many chances. He's just scoring wonder goals. And Newcastle's fixtures aren't so good that I want to triple up on Newcastle players. But the simple way to look at it is just he's the form player in the Premier League. Why have you not got him in your team?
Yeah, Newcastle have been really consistent over the last few games, and he's pretty much been at the heart of it. So I'm happy with the gamble on him so far.
And on that as well, and it's going to kind of lead on to your team. If Saka is fit, I've kind of got to. I'm not going to transfer out Haaland regardless. It just isn't worth it to me because, like a lot of people, I've got like money wrapped up in Haaland. But most importantly, I can't transfer into Jesus because I've got 3 Arsenal players.
Yeah.
Kane's the obvious premium that you would change to. I already own. So there isn't anyone I could get in that would make it worth it to me. Somebody without Kane, I could see the argument, you'd lose a bit of money on it. But if you think, like, if Haaland's injury is worse than expected and he isn't going to play until after the World Cup, it might be worth you just getting in Kane for 2 weeks.
Sure.
It's a lot of money sat on your bench. But yeah, it doesn't seem worth it to me. I'd need 2 transfers to move that money into midfield. So
still listed at 75% chance. So.
Yeah, and Pep sort of suggested that he was better, but not like it was we'll wait and see. But he is improving. So Haaland's definitely staying for me. But if I had the luxury transfer, Saka's fit, don't have any concerns, I'd probably get rid of Mitrovic. I'm not desperate to get rid of him. He's got United and City in his next 2, which is pretty tough. But he's a 90-minute man. He's on penalties and he's their sort of talisman. So if you're going to hold anyone through tough fixtures, he's not a bad option.
Yeah.
I said last week that I was considering Calvert-Lewin, and I've not ruled that out. It is a kind of wild punt, but I like the odd one of those. Like, there's nothing really to back that up apart from the fact that Everton have got 2 good fixtures. And it's similar to Mitrovic in that he's on penalties and, in the past has been the man that they build their team around. So back from injury, nobody owns him. The more obvious one is to just get Callum Wilson in, which is probably what I'll do. Newcastle's fixtures aren't the best in the world either, but he's been great for the last few weeks now. And with their injuries up front as well, there's no competition for him, for his spot really. And similar to Almiron, you're just picking someone who's in great form. I think he might be playing himself into a potential World Cup spot as well. That's my most likely transfer. I think it's likely that Saka will be fit from what Arteta said, and I'll probably bring in Callum Wilson for Mitrovic. But a couple of other options for next week. What are you looking at?
I don't have a huge amount of transfer plans. Obviously, I'm only 2 weeks after the wildcard, so I'm still relatively happy with my team. Toney's the obvious standout, having been suspended and also not really being in a great bit of form of late. And I think Brentford have City within a couple of games, not next week, but the week after.
Yeah. That's it. They've got, it'd be well worth holding him, without the suspension because they've got Forest this week. Yeah. Probably the worst defence in the league, but
he's not going to be playing it. So.
But he's not going to be playing it, and then he faces City. For me, because you've obviously got the wild card afterwards, he could just bring him back in again. It's just not worth it. It's that'd be my first transfer for sure.
Yeah, cash in. My 2 options to bring in, one was Callum Wilson for obvious form reasons, who is, I think, £1 million less, so I can afford him. The other was to take a punt on Danny Welbeck, because I think Brighton are coming into a good patch of, at least in terms of difficulty of games. They have been playing well without scoring goals, so it would be quite a punt to bank on Danny Welbeck suddenly turning it on. But I was just looking through the sort of fixture lists, and Brighton look like they've got a good stretch ahead of them.
Again, though, it's only for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, it would be quite a risky punt. Maybe Callum Wilson's the better bet.
Yeah, I think I've shouted out Welbeck before on earlier videos. I think I'm trying to remember. I actually don't think he started this week, because I think they basically played Trossard down the middle, which is something to potentially, consider whether his place is actually nailed. But overall this season, I think he's been fairly important to how they play, and I think he's been playing well. But as a link man and somebody who holds the ball up and runs the channels, and he hasn't. I sort of shouted it out and then thought I wasn't convinced by it. he just doesn't score enough goals as a central striker. Now, I'm not putting him down as a player. Like I say, I actually think he's been good this season and kind of important to how Brighton have attacked, but not necessarily.
Just not enough points getting way.
Not necessarily the man who's getting the goals. So, yeah, Callum Wilson, I don't think. Yeah, it's just form. It's form over fixtures. Like, they've got Southampton away, which is pretty decent, but it is an away game. And then they've got Chelsea. I know Chelsea just had a horror show against Brighton, but I don't...
anticipate a repeat.
Yeah, I actually think Potter just got his team wrong. Like, they were so exposed. I know he's done it before where he's played kind of wingers as, like, wing-backs, but... Like, I saw an average position map and Sterling was playing as the left wing back and was basically playing just off the striker. And it's like, so Cucurella was basically pulling left to cover left wing back. And I can't remember, it was right for Chalobah, I think, was playing right centre back and he was covering the right wing back. So they basically just played Thiago Silva as a one-man defence.
Yeah, that seems an error.
Yeah, so I don't think that it's that Chelsea are going to necessarily struggle. I think that is a tough game. But yeah, Callum Wilson, I think, is just playing so well that I wouldn't worry too much about the fixtures being slightly tougher. Mm-hmm. I think like he's just looking like getting chances at the minute. So I consider doing a proper like best options to cover Ivan Toney. But yeah, for me, it's Callum Wilson. One and done.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
So how's your team looking for next week then? Like, presuming that somebody comes in for Ivan Toney.
Yeah, absolutely. So as it stands right now, sticking with Sanchez over Ward, they have Wolves, who I think to date have scored around 7 goals.
Yeah.
Or so. So that feels good. Of course, sticking with Cancelo, City against Fulham, Trippier against Southampton, and I've toying with the idea of going Anderson because I have West Ham over White, who have Chelsea. I just think on the balance of probability, Chelsea are more likely to score against Arsenal than West Ham against Palace. But that might just be some false data. So I'm still weighing up that decision at the moment. But currently I've got Anderson on the pitch. That means I'm sticking with a 5-man midfield of Eze, Foden, Martinelli, Salah, and Almiron. I'm keeping Haaland on the pitch just in case. Again, 75% means he might play, and Jesus up front. If I do go for Callum Wilson over Toney, then I will probably drop Eze to the bench and play a 3-man up front.
Yeah. I've got the equivalent decision as well. I was also thinking of dropping Ben White, who's been really good since I brought him in, but I think it's likely Chelsea will score in that game, and he's not attacking enough, even playing as a fullback, that I think is likely to get me attacking points. And I've got Gay, the other Crystal Palace centre back, so he would be the one that I would bring in. I think it's actually fairly likely that I'll probably do that. I don't mind though having Martinelli. Me just saying I don't think Chelsea's defence is suddenly terrible after last week. I still don't mind having double Arsenal attack going up against them. Arsenal just are scoring against anyone, and Chelsea's defence hasn't looked watertight. So
yeah, it's got the potential to be quite high-scoring games.
Yeah, I think both teams will score for sure in it. Zaha will stay in my team away to West Ham. Got low expectations out of that one, and Foden will complete the midfield. And up front, it'll be Kane against Liverpool. Not super excited for that one. Mm-hmm. Haaland against Fulham will obviously be my captain. It's just where to place the vice. And like I say, I think it's likely I'll bring in Callum Wilson, injuries notwithstanding, bring in Callum Wilson for Mitrovic as my one change. I'm at the moment thinking I'm probably going to put the captaincy on Cancelo. I don't usually like captain and defenders, but I don't really fancy I've watched a couple of Tottenham games recently. I don't think they've been playing very well.
Yeah.
As a team, and I don't know.
Just a clean sheet bonus like that, making that 12 points on a captaincy, even in a otherwise fairly quiet week, can be a good additional point.
I'd be happy with that. And also, like, I can't risk Foden because I'm not convinced he's going to start, and I don't think I'd pick any of the Arsenal boys against Chelsea. So a kind of process of elimination there is. I mean, the only punt is if I brought in Callum Wilson, is potentially to captain him against Southampton, but I think Cancelo is most likely going to be my vice captain.
I'm sticking with captaincy on Haaland as well. My vice captaincy, I'm going to back my boy Almiron. He's been great for 2 weeks in a row. I think Southampton are a beatable team, and I think Newcastle are in a good vein of form. Of course, bringing in Callum Wilson might rock that decision who will bag the points in that particular match. But last week I viced Salah, and he did all right. I have no real complaints, but they've got Tottenham this week. And despite the fact I think Liverpool might win, I don't think it's going to be a goal fest.
No. It must be frustrating as a Salah owner. I mean, having said that, I did considerably better than my captaincy this week, but one Salah scored early on in that game, and then you sort of think like, he scored. Like, what are the chances? At least chip him with an assist and get some bonus points, and nothing out of it for you. Apart from that goal. But having said that, like I say, it was considerably better than my captaincy choice. But also, he's just keeps scoring in the. I think he's a top scorer in the Champions League. Like, it's not like he's playing badly. It's a great form in Europe.
Get no points for that.
No, I think after the World Cup, I'd be very surprised. I've obviously not thought about my team, but I'd be very surprised if my two premiums aren't Salah and Haaland, neither of which are going to the World Cup and can have a nice little rest for a month.
Absolutely.
I think they'll be straight in there. Oh, well, that's it for our Game Week 15 team selection video. If you enjoyed the video, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It's massively appreciated when anyone does that. And join us again next week for another video.